Hello, everybody. Welcome back to How Come. I'm so excited for this week's episode. We are talking about accessibility and inclusivity with Pamela Rae Schuller. She's my friend. She's also an internationally known disability advocate and stand-up comedian. She's got amazing stories of growing up in a body she had no control over. Her stories are so engaging. They're so powerful. They're a little bit heart-wrenching, but also unapologetically funny. You can see her on BuzzFeed and the Dr. Mike channel and hear her on SiriusXM. And she's also writing on Mayim Bialik's Grok Nation. Or you can catch her on her upcoming tour of the US and Canada with her one-woman show, What Makes Me Tick. Can't wait for you to hear the episode. Also, speaking of tours, I am going to be joining Ashley Gavin on an outdoor comedy tour on the West Coast in the next few days. So check out the link in my bio for dates in Seattle and Portland and LA and the places in between. Me and Ashley. Ooh, it'll be so fun. But we're talking to Pamela right now. So I loved this episode. The only thing is, I was so depressed the day that we recorded it, but I was feeling a lot better yesterday, the day that we recorded the Cumpanion Cumgratulations from this week, which is also amazing. Her name is Becky. She lives in Florida. She is 40, and she has a lot of first times that we celebrate. But during editing, I just it was crazy to listen to how depressed I was one week and how much better I felt this week. And so that's just a good reminder to everybody that even if you're down one week, you can feel so much better another week. And I do think that's thanks to therapy for sure. We recorded Pamela's part when I was still in Portland, and then we recorded Becky's part when I was here in New York at my brother's apartment, the one who was supposed to move into Nan's, because I finally got to visit Oliver. The baby, he's so cute. You'll hear him cry in the background of this episode a few times, and I don't know, maybe later on I'll put in a louder crying soundbite that I got from him. But yeah, he's so cute. I tested negative. I got vaxxed. I did most of the appropriate steps. I really saw nobody leading up to it. I just stayed inside and watched stuff online. I figured out a loophole to the hotspot thing. Apparently in New York, they have these free wireless stations on the street that you can plug into, and my room happens to be very close to one. I don't get internet in the living room, but I get it in my bed. I'm I guess I have to work from bed. But yeah, I figured it out. And I watched something this week that I highly recommend. There is a new documentary out on Hulu called Hysterical. It is about female comics and the industry, and there are so many great comics in it. Jessica Curson, Nikki Glazer, Rachel Feinstein, Bonnie McFarlane, Marina Franklin, Margaret Cho, Kelly Bachman. You can actually see Kelly Bachman calling out Harvey Weinstein. Remember when we talked about that on Jokes by Survivors? It's amazing. Check it out. I actually interviewed Jessica, who was in it and produced it, Jessica Curson, the same day that we recorded Becky's Congrats. So if you want to watch the movie and then go watch Jessica's whole unedited interview, go check that out right now on patreon.com/howcome. Also, if you want to see any extras to this episode or any episode, we have all the unedited episodes with video, patreon.com/howcome. Go check it out. Yeah, this episode is so fun. In the first half, you do hear a little of what happens on Patreon because Robin and I were waiting for Becky and we were just talking like we do. So you'll hear that, and then you'll hear Becky come in, and then you'll hear Pamela's part all about inclusivity and accessibility. And yeah, it is a really good, feel-good episode. And I can't wait for you to hear it. Thanks to BetterHelp for supporting How Come. For 10% off your first month, go to betterhelp.com/howcome and start living a better life today.
How come? How come? How come I can't achieve? How come I can't achieve? I'm rolling up my sleeves. I'm rolling up my sleeves. Oh baby, I believe these guests can help. 'Cause 'cause I can't do it by myself. I wanna jizz.
Brenda Song and Macaulay Culkin have had a child.
My mind is blown.
My mind is blown. I feel old.
Why? Brenda Song?
And Macaulay Culkin, but Brenda Song mainly.
It didn't make me feel old as much as it made me feel weird. Like, I didn't know they were dating.
Nor did I. Apparently they've been together since 2017.
This is like Aaron Rodgers dating Shailene Woodley.
Who's Aaron Rodgers?
Oh, Aaron Rodgers is an NFL player. And he's like really well known.
Quarterback for the Packers. Yeah, bro. Sorry.
Yeah, bro.
He's also hosting Jeopardy this week.
Do you know Shailene Woodley, though?
Yeah.
They're engaged.
That's insane.
They started dating during the pandemic.
Oh, no. I did know that she was dating someone. I just didn't know who he was.
Okay. Oliver is about to have tub time.
Aww.
You hear him crying?
I do. He's not having it.
He's not happy. Wait, so what's the deal with this companion?
I'll share the doc with you again. She's 44 now. She was 40 at the time.
Cool.
All right, can I let her in?
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
I can't believe I had a child.
I know.
Shook.
Hello.
There we go.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much for coming on and talking to us.
Thank you for asking me. I love you, Remy. You have no idea.
Oh, thank you. That feels really nice. Well, I love you for coming on the pod. How long have you been listening?
Season 1, when you and your sister were doing it at Remy's house.
The good old days.
Yes.
And you are a late bloomer, but a bloomer nonetheless. So tell us about your congratulations.
So I started dating my husband about 9 years ago. And I felt like I was a sexual person. I just liked the act. Touch is my love language, but I never knew what could come of it, pun intended.
Yes, I loved it. I loved every second of it.
It's
great. So we started dating when I was 34. Mm-hmm. And then right around 37, 38, he made me come for the first time.
Ah.
And I had no idea what it was. I literally was screaming, trying to get away from him because I had never felt anything like that before.
Wow. And how?
My family never talked about sex. Deep religious family, deep South. We just didn't talk about stuff. So there was no conversations about it. To me, it was just something you did when you got married. No excitement, no nothing. You did it to procreate. And I'll never forget, we were in this little hotel. I was so scared people were listening to me. And I was still so frightened of it that I guess I almost forced myself not to have that happen to me again.
No.
Okay, so that was about 37, 38. So move on to 40. As we're dating, we get to know each other even more. We've had a lot of journeys, a lot of, roller coasters of a relationship. And I started learning more things about him. And I realized I wasn't meeting some of his needs. And I didn't quite understand them. Because I would find porn, I would find this kind of stuff. I never even watched porn, anything. So I started trying to find my own research that I felt comfortable listening to on how to find out about sex.
Yeah.
What was it about?
Yeah.
Here I am 40 years old and I don't know what the big deal is. And that was part of my deep dive on podcasts. So I was bored at work. I worked in a big corporate office and put my earbuds in. And I think I started with, I don't even know how I came across Girls Gotta Eat. Oh, yes, I do. It was through, I followed Nikki Glacier and Andrew Collins.
Perfect.
And that's how somewhere down the rabbit hole, I came across
Remy's Wild World of Sex.
Apparently there was more to it, which of course I found out now there's way more to it.
Yeah, me too. It's a really nice way in with podcasting. If I don't know, sometimes porn's not your way in.
No, and I've learned a lot about porn because I've had to do my own research on porn as well. Because he really likes porn and I still can't grasp my head around that as much as he likes it. But so I was listening to your show And me and one of my girlfriends, we started listening to you religiously.
That means a lot from a religious person.
And we would instant message each other on the computer like, oh my God, what episode are you on? And she's like, oh, I'm on the tantric massage one. I'm like, oh my God.
Awesome.
So I started taking your lessons, your assignments, and taking them home. And I started learning to communicate better with husband on, let's try this. Let's see this. And we would have to, and I always brought it up over dinner. It was always dinner. He knew whenever we sat down at dinner and be like, hey, can we talk?
Yeah, we're going to eat well and we're going to talk about sex.
And he loved it. I mean, he was like ecstatic. So
I love it.
It's amazing.
So he started doing things that he was more comfortable with because I was more open. So the things that he was more comfortable with, I had no idea that either one, he knew how to do it. And I think also two, I became so comfortable, I became more open. And I just started coming. Like the first couple of times I squirted, like I immediately started squirting when I started coming.
We are
I
twins.
had no idea
we
what
are
was going
twins.
on.
That's amazing.
Now he makes sure I come at least 3 or 4 times before he even tries to get
Hell
pleasure.
yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, he does.
And like I had to invest in a blanket, the Liberator.
Oh, amazing.
It's amazing. Oh my gosh. Because I'm very anal and OCD about my home. So like it did become a chore for sex.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, where's the blankets? Where's the other sheets, the towels? Because there was never not a time that it was always, where's the spare sheets? Because we're going to remake the bed. So I bought it and it's amazing. I didn't believe it. The first time it happened, it's so nice. It's so comfortable to be able to just let it really all go. And I get up and my sheets are not wet. I may be wet, but my sheets are not wet.
Yeah. Oh my God. I really need to invest in one. Honestly, like there's another level of like not holding back when you're like not worried about making a mess.
And you've got to get the big one. You can't get the small one. The small one, it doesn't cover the bed enough.
So was your husband from a religious family as well? Or had he had more experience?
He's older than me. He's about 14 years older than me. So he's had definitely more experience.
So that first time he made you come, like it wasn't like a fluke, like he had practice.
Correct.
Okay. Not to bring up his exes, but
no worries with that. Because I mean, he's actually third husband. So I've had multiple partners.
I see. Okay.
So I've had multiple partners since the first husband, but we're on our third marriage.
Okay.
And third time's the charm.
Good. That's so exciting.
I had no orgasms with the first 2 husbands.
Wow. And did you not have intercourse until marriage?
No, I end up having sex right before marriage.
Okay.
It was very boring before you guys. I just kind of had sex.
And so how old were you around then?
21, 22. I had bought a dildo, but it was more as a joke. I was always so afraid to use it. We just called it Big Red, and the friends laughed because Becky the prude had a dildo.
But with the first 2 husbands, was the sex still like enjoyable? But it just wasn't like coming, completed, finished, done.
It was fine.
Fine. Yeah.
But this third husband,
it was fine. I mean, the first husband was like one of those husbands you marry, and that's because that's what you're supposed to do, and you have a kid, and the second husband was, like it was a 6-month marriage, so it didn't count.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Can you guys hear the baby?
Yes.
that's
adorable.
very cute.
Yeah, a little small of her.
Very cute.
So it definitely took some time. 2 husbands. I mean, you were going up against a lack of education. Also, you shared with us via DM before that you are a survivor of sexual violence twice. And I imagine that very much contributed to not accepting pleasure. How was the healing process with that?
I always tell people, I tell my son this too. I said, something happened to me when I turned 30 and I just started growing up. I wasn't the best person in my 20s. And it kept coming up. It kept coming up in relationships, kept coming up. And I think that was the demise of my first marriage. Was one, I couldn't stand for him to touch me because I hadn't dealt with it. And the first time it happened, I was 15. And then the second time it happened, I was 30. I was 32.
And were they people that you knew?
The first one, yes. The second one was a guy I met at a club who was mutual friends with people that I was with. And he was actually a police officer.
That's so scary.
And then when I tried to report, I didn't report the first one. And then I didn't report either one. But when I called to find out about reporting the second one, I got a lot of pushback from the police department. And so I just kind of dropped it. To me, it was just better just left alone. And, but I was able to talk about it at that time. I had already started healing and going to therapy and, taking care of myself once I turned 30 for some reason. I don't know why it took so long. And, so as soon as it happened, I started talking to people that I trusted and cared about. And just going through like self-defense courses and just more therapy. And, it was something I was able to be open about with my husband now and talk about it.
Yeah, that's really nice that you can like let him in and he can help you through it if like ever anything is going on. So really like you had to start healing before like really getting pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
'Cause when I tried to tell somebody when I was 15, they were like, well, maybe you, and I can't even tell you what they said, except for all I heard was, well, maybe you did. And then I just shut down. And
yeah, that's a horrible thing to hear.
I know it wasn't my fault, and that's all that matters. And I have healed from it. There are still little moments that pop up every now and then,
Of course.
But
it's not like a finished thing, and it doesn't have to be either.
Go.
Especially if you might see them somewhere and you're just like, oh shit.
Fuck. Well, I'm sorry you had to go through that and still go through that. Especially it must have been hard because you weren't having sex talks, and then the only sex talk you were having was like extremely negative and blame filled.
Right.
So I'm so sorry that happened, but I'm so happy that like even if your blooming was late, that it did happen and that you've like been able to grow so much in these past years.
I know. I love it. It is. It's amazing.
You keep saying this on every episode, like it's never too late to like start something, but like it's never too late to start healing. It's never too late to start loving yourself. It's never too late to start leaning into pleasure and like learning, like, and like, all right, so maybe you don't like the 2 husbands that you had first. Great. Get another one. Upgrade.
That I definitely did.
Come every time now.
Right? Like there's been times that he likes to see how far he can make me squirt. Like he likes to measure it after it's done.
This is so exciting.
I love it.
Is the measuring tape floppy or is it one of those hard ones, hard measure?
Does it matter?
No, it's like the ones you would get like at Joann's Fabric that, all the
They're
old
sewing.
ladies would carry in their purse. Yes.
That's what I was asking. Is it a man's measuring tape? No. No, I'm joking, Robin.
You better be. I have 2 tape measures
It's
in
a
my
joke
car
about
just in
gender
case.
norms. I prefer the stiff ones, personally.
Me too. They're great. Unless you're trying to measure like a really long distance and then they keep breaking. But then that's like 2
Yeah,
meters,
or if
like
you're trying to like
6
measure
feet.
your bust, you need the floppy ones.
Yeah, you do. Otherwise you might cut yourself with the with the
Yeah,
alloy, yeah.
Unless you're a square person.
Well, even then, I don't think it would be as accurate as the floppy one. Doesn't get into all the nooks
Even
and crannies,
then. Yeah. Robin feels really strongly about this because before podcasting, she was in building. So
Yes.
Oh, and my husband's in construction as well.
if you build it, they will come. Am I right? Were there any specific episodes that you remember, like assignments working really well from?
Like I learned anything that you not everything that you talked about did I try, but like the sweet vibrator, we started incorporating a lot of the toys involved, a lot of the lubes. Can't think of anything one particular episode. I think it was just a combination of after listening and
getting comfortable,
being open about everything. Right, is when everything just really started to happen. And
That's
then
awesome.
It's unbelievable.
So now you come every time with your husband.
Yes, vaginally, by pure stimulation.
Internally, externally, squirter, not ashamed of
all
it.
of it. Anally,
Oh
not
my
ashamed
God.
of it. Even anal. I'm like, I had no idea you could. I've heard you could come by anal, but anal.
Oh my God. That's so cool. Was the anal one, is it fingers or member?
No, it's with the dick. It's with the member.
Dick? Okay, amazing. I don't know why I just resorted to member, but I did.
I've never heard you call it that before.
Well, I don't know. I feel like I have to be like the best me, the most put together me, because she's been a true fan since the beginning.
So you resort to member.
So I'm trying to be scientific,
Nice and
just like in the
respectful.
beginning when we used to research. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Oh,
amazing.
don't be scientific. Just be you.
Just be myself.
It's big dick.
Yes.
With a big dick. So it was with a giant penis. Amazing.
Well, it's not that big. It's not that big.
But it's good sized for
It's
you.
nice.
It's
works.
right size for me. It's right size for me.
I love to hear it.
That's what you want.
It really is. You guys, this has been so much fun. I wish I could stay forever, but Oliver needs to go to sleep. And
Yes.
I have to get out of this room so his parents can have dinner. But Becky, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for coming on this podcast. I have to ask you, did you finish?
Absolutely.
Yeah, girl. Congratulations, and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
How great was Becky? And we talked about therapy in her section. We're going to talk about it again in Pamela's section. But literally, when I said thanks to BetterHelp for making this episode possible, they made it possible in more ways than one. I struggle with depression, anxiety, imposter syndrome, and it really prevents me from achieving my goals and getting this podcast out on time. And I'm sure some of you relate to that. BetterHelp is amazing because it assesses your needs and it matches you with your own licensed professional therapist. You connect in a safe and private online environment, so it's really convenient, and you can start communicating in under 48 hours, all without ever having to commute or take a cab and I don't know, sit in an uncomfortable waiting room. It's the worst. Ugh. BetterHelp is awesome. It's more affordable than traditional office counseling too, and financial aid is available. It's also available for clients worldwide, which we love because it doesn't matter what country you're in, you need therapy. And BetterHelp offers a really broad range of expertise, which may not be locally available to you in many areas. You get timely and thoughtful responses. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions and send a message to your counselor anytime, which I love. It's also just so convenient. It's so professional. It's so affordable. It's like everything I could have ever wanted. You can check out the testimonials posted daily on their site, but listen to me. They've got licensed professional counselors who are specialized in
depression, stress, anxiety, relationships, family conflicts, trauma, self-esteem, like gender identity, anything. So many people have been using BetterHelp that they are recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. I love it so much. And I know that I haven't really talked about my experience as much as I should have. I have loved it so much. The app is just so fun to use. There is like a diary part. So like it reminds you to write in your journal every day and just kind of like assess how you're feeling. And it's great to be able to, like I was saying in the beginning, like compare the fact that like just because you're sad today doesn't mean you're going to be sad the next day, and kind of like look back and be like, okay, this is normal for me to start getting sad about whatever. I have been texting with my counselor. It was awesome. I asked for somebody who specialized in stuff that I need, and they delivered. I had my first phone session the other day, and we had it, and it was so good. She immediately started like giving me homework, like stuff, like tangible stuff to work on, which is something that I've always wanted from a psychiatrist or a therapist. Is I'm like, I need you to tell me things to do. I don't want to just come in here and waste my time every week. And we're doing CBT and DBT stuff. So like a lot of my issues are like negative thoughts. And she sent me like a chapter to read on negative thoughts. And like, I'm going to be doing, like, I'm actually, when people say doing the work, like I'm going to be like doing the work. And I'm like very excited, and I really like her. And I think you guys are just going to love this app. Like it's great. So, you know, if you're not feeling the best and you want to feel better, start living a happier life today. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/howcome. Join over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health. That's BetterHelp, not health. BetterHelp, HELP.com/howcome for 10% off your first month. Thank you so much, BetterHelp. Seriously. Oh no, Oliver's being stressy and depressy. Sounds like somebody needs BetterHelp. Just kidding. I'm so sorry. He's okay now? Okay, now we have Pamela Rae Schuller. You are going to love her. She's a light in all of our lives. And yeah, she's got great stuff to say. And here she is.
It feels very risky to have this so close to my face because I have a lot of Tourette's. And I just figured it's a Tourette's day.
Is it?
I mean, I was barking before this started. I like every few months I have like a Tourette's 48 hours. So you might get real Tourette's here. The real kind.
I can't wait to see what it's actually like, because I know it's not what they have in the movies.
No, it's way more fun.
Yay! Oh my God, you guys, welcome Pamela Rae Schuller. She's my friend.
Excited to be here and hang.
I'm so excited to talk to you. I feel like I haven't seen you in 9 years, and
an offensive amount of time.
So excited to read your bio, like as a friend. I'm like, I didn't realize how accomplished. So that's exciting.
Don't worry, I'm still a dumpster fire like 60% of the time.
Good
so
to
I
know.
Balance it out. I do something good, I do something bad. That's kind of yeah.
Yeah, but you've been like crushing it this year. And recently you got written up in The Post for a really interesting issue that I think a lot of people would never think about because it doesn't apply to them. And it was that you have a Peloton.
No, I wanted to get a Peloton. I didn't get it.
Oh, in the picture, you're standing next to it.
Yeah, they had me pose with a Peloton.
Oh my God, adding insult to injury. Like you can't have one. Here's one. Okay, so you tell the story. What happened?
So I, over the past 5 years, have lost over 100 pounds, have gotten healthy. COVID hit, my trainer stopped training, and I was like, okay, I like need to buy something to do in my apartment.
Yeah.
So I was prepared to buy a Peloton, but I'm 4'6". So I had this moment and I was like, can I ride a Peloton? So I looked all over their website. They have maximum heights, but no minimum. So I started emailing. No one got back to me. I started tweeting and I was like, hey, like, can I use this? Like, or am I going to spend a lot of money and then not be able to reach? Finally, they wrote back and said, A Peloton is for 4'11" and up, but thank you for being a part of the family.
What?
I was like, cool, I'm not.
You're like, I'm very much not part of the family.
And so I wrote back and I was like, well, how can we make it work? Like, do you sell things I can put on to reach?
Like blocks or something? Yeah.
And they said it's unsafe. And so I then was like, okay, I'll find something else. And like, there's no, besides a treadmill, which my apartment can't fit, there's like not a lot of equipment for 4'6". So I posted an article with me to like push companies to think about accessibility.
Yeah.
And Peloton ignored it. They have yet to respond.
Well,
and I got some hate for the article.
Did you?
I did. Oh, a significant amount. But I think
why?
I think the hate came from, one, people who don't want to talk about inclusion and accessibility, which is a chunk of the population.
Yeah.
Unclear why. And then people who are hardcore Peloton. Like the Peloton official group ripped me apart. And finally, I joined, and I was like, "Can you just read the article?" And then they were like, "Oh, just kidding." But like, I stalked some of the people who said the meanest things. A nurse called me a midget, and was like, "The world isn't made for everyone, you little midget," or something like that.
Why are nurses the meanest people sometimes?
I stalked her, and I wrote back and said, wow, it's a little concerning and hurtful to have a nurse say such things about inclusion and accessibility. And she realized I stalked her. I took screenshots, and then she wrote me this long apology and was like, I didn't actually read the article. I thought you were just trying to get attention. I was like, well, yeah, a little bit. Like when you publish an article, it's for attention.
Yeah.
I want other people to be able to ride. There's this whole market. I have thousands of messages of people being like, I use a wheelchair and I've been working out with cans of soup because nothing is made for me. Like using cans of soup as weight. So I've got thousands of messages of people being like,
why wouldn't you be able to use a dumbbell?
It depends on probably hands and holding. I bet there are other issues.
Oh, yeah. See, we are programmed to think that there is something called normal and that if you don't fit into that, like you don't really think about, I even remember growing up and being like, why is there so much fuss about like wheelchair accessibility when like I don't know that many people in a wheelchair? It's because they still exist and are people.
And we're all going to need accessibility at some point if we get older. You know, it's like we're all going to at some point have surgery. And I agree. I'm 4'6". I'm Jewish, and I have like a whole lot of Tourette's syndrome. I'm not normal, but I think I've realized in my touring that like nobody is. Everyone's got something.
Right. That's I think it does a disservice to everyone when you're like, oh, there's one type of person. And then it's like, well, if I don't fit into that, like I should die.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you've ever felt that way, but I remember like learning about the Nazis and being like, okay, well, I would survive for some reasons, but I would die for other reasons. And then you think about people with disabilities and it was like, just kill them. And people have this idea that if you help people, it's going to like waste money for everyone else.
There's a lot of misconceptions. There's a lot. I mean, even with COVID, when hospitals were making tough decisions, people with disabilities are like, does that mean are they going to let people die with disabilities? And that's awful. That should never be a conversation. So there's a lot of work to be done, which is why I combine comedy and my passion for mental health and inclusion into one thing.
Yeah, it's really nice. And you're doing good talks all over the place. Would you say that it was more tough growing up little or with Tourette's?
Tourette's, easily.
Okay.
I would say, and at times, like I have obsessive compulsive disorder, which often goes with Tourette's. They like to play ball, they're best friends. And anxiety. And at times, some of those were like anxiety was maybe worse than Tourette's or OCD. Yeah. But my height has never been an issue. I just have step stools. I love being short.
So this is like the first time it's been like, hey, I can't do something?
No, but like the grocery store near me refers to me as the climber. If there's no one there to help me, I climb shelves. And, part of losing weight made that more fun. Now I'm a little climber. But they refer to me as a climber, and they asked me to stop climbing. And I was like, so you have two options.
You could have somebody here to help people.
Or you're cool with me bringing a step stool. But I don't really want to carry that through New York City. So really you have one option here. Either I climb or you help. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm 5'2". I can't get top shelf stuff. And I usually just like request somebody come over. And even then they're like, ugh, you need help?
In New York, we build up. Nothing is reachable for me. In my apartment, I can't reach my own microwave.
These are like very cute sentences though.
I thank goodness I got healthier because I love climbing on counters at this point and just figuring it out. It was harder before.
I used to like to climb into our pantry because I couldn't reach anything. And my mom was like, you're going to break it. And I was like, well, then fucking help me.
Then build an accessible pantry.
And put the snacks lower, bitch.
Yeah. You know I don't want raisins. Put those on the top shelf.
What is dating like when you are a smaller lady?
Yeah. So I feel like for a lot of I'm in my 30s, I'll just be honest. But for my 20s, I
Say it louder because you look fantastic.
Thank you so much.
I never got to say this in the Promising Young Woman episode, and I think it is the most important thing besides the entire movie. Carey Mulligan is 35 in it, and Bo Burnham is 29, and they're both playing 30-year-olds, okay? Okay, women don't age worse. Now go on, Pamela, you're 30. How's dating been?
Well, I'm in my early 30s.
You're 30.
Sorry, I'm 28.
Okay.
I'm 28. So I think when I was younger, I had my fears were that disability took me out of the dating pool. Not necessarily my height, because I'm portable. Like, that's fun.
Yeah, and because like if you're a woman, it's like fun sized or whatever.
Yes.
Like it was like a little hot. Like Patty Stanger came up with the word like spinner if you were like a short Jewish woman. You know, like it's a little hot. It's
yeah. So I think,
and you are on the taller side of a smaller person.
Yeah, I'm 4'6.5".
Yeah.
I'm convinced that when people hear I'm 4'6", they're like, oh, and then when people hear and a half, they're like, oh. I'm like, it's okay again. I used to think that having Tourette's like things like maybe my head a little bit, and Tourette's like took me out of the dating pool, and I was petrified of men finding out that I have Tourette's. And at this point, everyone has something. And like a reporter last week asked me what kind of Tourette's I had, and I said the adorable kind. Like, if a dude doesn't like me because I wink a little extra, or sometimes I make a noise when I'm like really excited.
Pamela, your disability is cute.
You know, like, ugh. Yeah, I bark sometimes, but like you're doing a great job if you get me to bark. So don't hear it as a compliment.
Tourette's is a thing that is totally misconstrued in media. Like it was always just like, fuck shit, motherfucker, like whatever. And like you think that is what Tourette's is just constant cursing. Yeah. When what is it actually?
So I do yell words, but not from Tourette's. I just yell words for fun. You know? So Tourette's, first of all, I think people confuse a lot of things. What Tourette's is a neurological disorder, and it just means that you do movements and noises that you can't control. It has nothing to do with social. It has nothing to do with IQ. It's as close to the brain as like Parkinson's is with shaking. It's just movements. So for someone to yell cuss words, they actually have an additional diagnosis. So Tourette's is a diagnosis, and then people have corporalia and echolalia. So corporalia is where you yell words or phrases, which I did when I was younger, but don't anymore. And echolalia is when like someone might be like, sit down, and then someone with Tourette's might go like, sit down, sit down, sit down. Like it's echoing. And those are additional diagnoses. Out of every 5 people with Tourette's, or maybe it's 4, I think it's either out of every 4 or 5, only 1 yells words.
Wow.
It's just that's what the media.
But like that's what it looks like that the norm is, but it's not.
No, the norm is like winking a little bit extra, or like, you know, being jerky or making faces, or
I love winking. I know. Like you're just like hitting on everyone.
I know, except, well, 2 things. Tourette's and obsessive compulsive disorder like to play ball. So I was at the end of a show, and I was so tired, and I accidentally winked at a man, and I saw him get so excited, and then OCD made me wink like 25 more times.
Oh no.
And I watched his whole world implode.
That's so funny.
Like I watched him in slow motion be like, yeah.
But wait, so it's not the type where you'd have to like wink on one side and then balance it out with the other side?
No.
I have a friend who's got OCD that way, where like I used to punch her in the arm in high school and then she'd punch the other one.
She'd be like, do the other.
To be like, balance it out.
My OCD manifests like that every now and again, but with Tourette's, it's usually just like I have to do even numbers.
Okay.
Yeah, usually. Although at this point in my life, not as much anymore. Usually Tourette's is good and OCD doesn't kick in. Like Tourette's will stop and will be good. But yeah, at this point, the most noticeable thing about my Tourette's is just I make funny faces. I wink. I have bad days, though. You are actually catching me on a really bad Tourette's day. My hands are swollen because I've been just ticking them nonstop for 2 days, but it'll calm down in a day or two.
And like, does days where your Tourette's are acting up, does the anxiety come with it?
Not anxiety, but I have to take extra care of mental health on those days.
Okay.
Like like yesterday, I wanted to stay in bed all day. So I like woke up and went to the gym and like made a healthy lunch, because if I take care of my mental health, then I'm more inclined to put the things I need to do in place to feel better. So like Tourette's is kind of chronic pain, because if I'm ticking the same part of my body over and over and over again, it hurts. So I have to be aware of my mental health so that I can think to myself, okay, you know, maybe I should go to my neurologist. Or like a few hours ago, I bought these ice packs for my hands.
Okay.
And, you know, worked out today to try to make sure that I have the ability to think through what I need to do to feel okay again.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like what you said about that it has nothing to do with IQ, because one of the smartest people I know has Tourette's, and we never knew, because it just came out in this like little tick where he would kind of like roll his neck. Yeah. And it was he was like one of the most popular boys in school, you know, and I think if he had ever said, oh, I have Tourette's, then maybe we would have started thinking of it differently just because of how it was described at the time. It's not like these like people like screaming cunt in like the middle of Union Square.
I mean, I do that, but for fun.
Yeah.
Most people with Tourette's have a super mild case. And when I'm on stage, I tell the story. So I have like an hour show and it's comedy and story. I talk about having the worst diagnosed case of Tourette's any doctor had ever seen at the time. So I was like out of school for years. I broke my neck from throwing my head back so hard. I broke my neck. Yeah. My mom, I remember telling the doctor, like, this is what she's doing. She's throwing her head back over and over. And they were like, it is impossible to break a neck from something like that. And they brought me in anyway. And the doctor watched me and he said, we need to do x-rays. And sure enough, a bone in my like spine was going into my skull and shattering. Like, that's how,
Holy shit. Oh my God. So we talk about like being afraid of like having an orgasm because of the involuntary shit that might happen. Like, you guys, nobody has broken a neck from coming
yet. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Challenge accepted.
I'll go back to that same doctor and be like, new reason.
When were you diagnosed? Like, when did your parents bring you in?
Third grade. So I was doing professional theater starting in first grade. And the director, I was like Thumbelina and Hans Christian Andersen. And the directors would ask if I had something in my eye. Like I was twitchy. And so in second or third grade, we got me diagnosed, but it was so new that I had a teacher in third grade who didn't realize, like, she wanted to train Tourette's out of me. So she made me stand in the corner if I didn't have happy eyes. And like, I spent a lot of a year in a corner. Like it's okay. I've had great teachers since. And like at this point, not only am I a comedian, but I have a master's in child advocacy. So I sued my school system as a kid. And that's because they wouldn't, my Tourette's was so severe, they kicked me out of public school. Because they wanted me in special ed or not at all. And I'm smart. I just couldn't control my body.
Yeah. And there's more to those two choices.
Public school is very much about buckets, and they're not a lot. It's either like typical or special ed, and there's not middle options. And so they tried to put me in special ed, and we sued my school system, and I got to go to this cool kick-ass boarding school in Burlington, Vermont for hippies.
Oh, good. I love that.
Yeah. And that's what they were the ones to put me in stand-up. So I have this degree because I've helped other families do the same thing and sue.
Wow. Yeah, that's what's amazing is like you can get those degrees and like help other people. And maybe it's just because we've been only told that like the quote unquote normals can be teachers. Like, no, now it's like other people with those same issues are coming in and being like, this is how I learned. And like, you're not a lost cause and you don't have to be trained out of the thing that you are.
No, I was an asshole, but not a lost cause.
No, yeah. I might be a lost cause, but that's...
You are absolutely not.
So how old were you when you switched schools?
I went to boarding school. I was supposed to be a sophomore, but I had missed the last 2 years because of broken bones and out of school. And so I started over as a freshman. So I call it a victory lap. So I did my freshman year of high school twice.
What was that like? Like, that's already interesting as like somebody who's missed school.
Yeah.
And then you've like missed school and you're coming in and you're the new girl.
So boarding school it was like no one knew anyone. We all came from all over the world. So people just didn't know that I was a year older than everyone else. I just kind of kept that quiet. And I was immature and annoying. So I absolutely needed a year to catch up. I still do.
That's nice. Yeah. Honestly, we should all just lie about our age and like wait to emotionally mature and then be like, yeah, I'm in 9th grade now.
I'm like barely ready for 11th grade.
But I'm 32. Yeah. Cool. And was the Burlington school, how were they with like sex and dating? Like, were people doing that? Were you doing that?
I wasn't, but the rest were. They were so liberal and incredible. So there were only 40 kids or 38 kids in the entire school. So we were all like hippy dippy. Ooh. It was great. A lot, because it was artsy, weird kid boarding school, like a lot of the guys weren't straight. Like there was a lot going on, but
you're not attracted to me, but it's okay.
Yeah, right. There were some though. There were some that were straight. But I remember once everyone was hooking up, probably except me. And there were like, I think there was a pregnancy scare or two. And I remember going into the dean's office and she was like, we're going to get you all something to help. And they took us to a sex store and everyone got a toy.
What?
Yeah.
That's so cool. What'd you
get? It was so, I was in 9th grade. I was very immature. So I bought
But you were 40. What'd you get?
I got a vibrator, but I remember I would like dress it up and let it like hop around the floor on the girls' floor. I don't think I was using it right away. I think it was this scary object for a while. But yeah, they were very much like, we're going to talk about all of this. We're going to talk about masturbation and sex and healthy relationships and consent. And I think first of all, that school like changed my life. They were the ones to put me in comedy, and it wasn't a place for kids with disabilities. It was just a place that was like, you be you, like you be you.
Right.
And they were very open about all of that, which was great.
But that's the thing too, is if it was a place just for disabilities, it's like people with disabilities aren't a monolith. You know, like you're so much more than just like, yeah, I've got a few disabilities, but it's like, I'm also like an insanely creative person. I should probably be going to school for creatives.
Yes. Yeah, that's why when you see someone with a disability in a TV show or movie and it's someone either not played by someone with a disability or there's no people with disabilities in the writer's room, it's one-sided. The storyline is disability. The conflict is disability, as opposed to like somebody with a disability who also is this and this and this and dating and this and this. And you get like a better story.
Yeah. Did you ever see Disclosure?
No.
It's a movie about trans representation in media, and it says the same thing. It's like if a cis person is playing a trans person, like they're also playing trans. It's not just like an actor playing a human. It's like another layer of it. And like, yeah, I feel like whenever we see disabled people, like the first one that comes to mind is what's his name in Glee?
I knew that was going to be Archie. I knew that was going to be
Archie in Glee. And the thing that why he comes to mind over Drake, who is also a classic disabled character in Degrassi, but because Archie...
Is it Archie or is that his real name?
Artie?
Artie. I think you're
Artie?
Correct. Artie,
yeah.
I think Artie.
The thing that stuck out with him is that in one scene he gets up and dances because it's like a dream sequence or whatever. And like, I just remember that like really hitting me the wrong way.
Yes. They claimed that was the reason why they cast an able-bodied person, because they wanted that scene. And I was like, right, but if you had any writers in the writer's room, they would have been like, okay, but that's making the point that you think that most people with disabilities are like just every night hoping that they wake up without it.
Yeah.
And in reality, I have a ton of friends with disabilities and like they own it. Like you're not confined to a wheelchair. I have a few good friends who use wheelchairs and they would never say confined. They would say, no, this gives me my freedom. I use a wheelchair. I think it just perpetuates misconceptions that I remember.
It really does.
I remember being in high school and I was like towel drying my hair in the bathroom. And a girl came up to me and was like, Pam, if I or anyone else I knew had your life, we'd probably be curled up in a cave somewhere slitting our wrists. And she was trying to compliment my spirit. And I was like, thank you so much for that compliment. I think people think it's sad and like, no.
Yeah.
No. Sometimes the Tourette's drives me nuts, but I'm an innovator. I'm funny. It makes my brain different.
Right. And like you wouldn't have half the jokes in your set without it.
No. And even the ones, I have a lot in my set when I'm just doing normal comedy that have nothing to do with my height or Tourette's.
Of course
but
not.
I still think my brain works differently. Like I see the world differently.
The worst people are the people who have never had any type of struggle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you are just like by the book, everything's been okay, nothing's ever been hard, like you probably don't develop much of a personality or empathy and you end up saying things like, if I were you, I'd kill myself.
Also, tough stuff builds resilience. So it's great that you've never had a roadblock and your parents knocked down every potential roadblock, but like good luck when the first shitty thing happens. You're going to shut down.
You're going to have a tough time.
Yeah. There's always that person that hears I like have a dead dad and they'll be like, I totally know what you're going through. I once lost my cat.
Fuck.
Do you though? Do
you?
Like I totally know what you're going through. My great aunt died. Okay.
I actually saw a movie and there was this guy and he played the role of death and like that just like affected me.
So I like totally know what you're going through.
Just like somebody talked about death to me once and I hated it. So I like feel really bad for you.
I was scrolling on TikTok and this random person I don't know mentioned death. So like I totally get it.
Totally know what you're going through. That's a weird form of non-empathy when it's like you take the focus off the other person. And it's just like, yeah, stop talking. We know what you're going through.
Also, like, there's an appropriate reaction is like, oh, wow, like, I'd love to know more about that or what that was like. You don't have to always connect or relate. I think that's important, too, with, like, you know, conversations about race and things. If it doesn't apply to you, don't try to connect. Just learn and listen. Shut your mouth for a minute. I do that all the time.
A lot of us, I think, are uncomfortable with, like, space in conversations, especially when there's, like, someone's about to say something tough. You know, you don't want to like make it awkward. And this year I've tried to start living in those moments more and interrupting less. Because like you'll probably learn something if you don't feel the need to interject your own story.
Yeah. I'm working on that as well, by the way.
Like, and but it does take work because I think that is like a very human reaction to like want to relate.
Yeah.
But sometimes you don't.
Right.
Like
and
you
it
just
cheapens
don't.
it if you find a connection where it doesn't belong.
Like I genuinely can't reach stuff, okay? But I'm not saying I can't ride a Peloton.
How tall are you?
5'2.5".
Oh, that's so tall. Okay.
It's so tall. I know. Whenever we stand next to each other, I'm like, look at me.
You're like, I'm killing it with the growing situation.
But I stopped growing. Like I was a tall kid in my class. Was that you ever?
For 1 year, third grade. Third grade, I was like average. And then everyone else kept going. And the doctor was like, oh, that was actually it for you. That was it. Hope you had fun.
And do they diagnose you as being
So when I was born, I immediately wasn't hitting numbers. They didn't think I'd hit 4 feet. So I'm technically not a dwarf. I am diagnosed as of short stature. So I just didn't grow.
What is a dwarf?
Not proportionate. So I'm proportionate. So I'm not a dwarf.
Right. Okay.
Right. My diagnosis is just of short stature.
Okay.
I'm a little person.
A little person.
Although I hate that phrase.
I know. What would you prefer?
I don't know. I'm a whole ass person though.
Yeah.
It just feels condescending. Like when people say, that's wrong. There's a lot of people prefer it. I just, as a comedian, when someone says little person, I picture them going like, coochie, coochie, coo, and like tickling my tummy. And that's probably
I am, because I find you cute, but that
when you do it, I love it though.
But it shouldn't be, no, but that's it. Like, I would like to know like what you would prefer, because I'm sure there's a lot of people who are like, I hate that.
Yeah, and I mean, we all agree that the word midget is derogatory.
Yeah.
I'm just short. I didn't grow. I don't think we need to diagnose or label anything. The only issue with my bones is that I can't flick people off. I don't have a knuckle, so I cannot get my middle finger up.
I'll do it for you.
Thank you so much. I'll just do it.
Yeah, I feel like the only reason people feel the need to like classify things is to like imply like you need extra help with stuff. And like you said, like most things through life have been pretty normal. Like, can you drive a car?
I have a license. I'm an awful driver. So Tourette's makes me cross my eyes quite a bit. So when I was taking the test, I remember I wasn't doing so well. And I remember he was like, if you do one more thing wrong, I have to fail you. So I started crying. And I was like, I have Tourette's syndrome, which was me milking it 100%. Like, my nephew has that. And then he was like, how about I talk you through it?
Oh, that's really nice.
And I passed, and I remember him saying, I'm letting you pass a little bit against my better judgment.
Oh, but you can reach the pedals.
Barely. I had to try on cars, and I'm just an awful driver. And it's unclear if it's Tourette's, if it's because I can't really see over the wheel, if it's because I get distracted by shiny things. I lived in Jersey for a while, and I once hit a parked house.
Well, that's not good.
Came out of nowhere.
But I also I was driving in the courtyard of my parents' building in New York, and at 5 miles per hour, I hit the wall, and permanently on their building, there is navy blue car paint, like on this like
Sounds like the wall came out of nowhere, so I'm on your team here.
Yeah, like like it like just showed up.
Yeah, there's no way that's your fault, and I will maintain that.
So that doesn't mean you're a bad driver. You're just a driver.
That's fair. I could never drive in New York City, and now I live here. There's just no reason. I'll drive like on a back road in Ohio, where the only thing I might hit is like a cow, and I'd feel really bad. But
yeah. With dating, are people pretty respectful of Tourette's?
Yeah, I also think a lot of the guys I hook up with or date, which is not always the best life choice, are comedians. So I don't need to be like, I have Tourette's. They've heard me. They know.
Right.
And I think when I date a guy who maybe I met on a dating app or doesn't know, I don't use the word necessarily right away. I give myself the agency and like, how do I describe it and where? There's no reason to be like, here are all of my cards at once. You don't do that with anything. Right. You don't go on a first date and you're like, here's everything I've struggled with. So
unless you're in a really dark place and you're like, I'm just going to throw everything at them, and if they stay, they're for me.
You're right. And I'd like to find one person who that works for.
Yeah.
If it does, I'm going to start doing it. I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah.
So I sometimes will be like, I'm just twitchy sometimes. And sometimes I'll be like, yeah, I have Tourette's. But often the guys have Googled me and they'll know what they're getting into. But again, when I tell my story, it's like I'm talking about Tourette's as a kid. At this point, if you have a problem with it, that's on you. Whatever, like,
yeah.
You know,
well, that would be the thing is like you wouldn't keep seeing somebody who was disrespectful at this point because like you know yourself and you know.
And I also don't want to be a fetish. I don't want to be a fetish.
Right.
That's the other thing that I sometimes have to think about. And I think with my height, it can put me into fetish category.
Do you think people have Tourette's fetishes?
There's something. Yeah, I'm sure people do. I believe that if we can come up with it, someone has felt it.
Yeah, but definitely with height. And you can tell
for sure.
by what they say initially.
Yeah, I dated a guy who, I'm 4'6", he was 6'4". I for sure think it might have been like a thing for him. We looked like different species.
Yeah, no, with those couples, I'm always like, does he care that he looks like her father? Or
Oh, no. And I feel that even with normal sized men, I just have kind of leaned into it. I always feel like a little Oompa Loompa, like running next to them.
You don't look like an Oompa Loompa.
Can I send you potential men for you to research and be like, Pam, no. Okay.
But I make terrible decisions too.
Oh, I do too.
So
just in dating. In real life, I make some okay decisions, but in dating, no. I like to learn things the hard way. Yeah.
Me too. I like to pick someone terrible and then just like fix them.
Oh, look at you putting in effort. I keep them terrible.
You just have so many like accomplishments.
I care about 3 things: comedy, inclusion, and mental health. So everything I've done has just been in line with those. But I've poured every ounce of my energy into those 3 things.
And they're all related.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I haven't met a single comic who hasn't had to keep their mental health in check or has something going on.
When did you start getting that in check?
My mental health? Oh, at boarding school. They put me in therapy.
Cool. I love this school.
I do too. But my favorite is they forgot to tell me that they were putting me in therapy. So one day at boarding school, I was in detention. I had like the record of the most detention any kid had ever had in the entire history of the boarding school. So I was there and they found out I had nothing about myself that I loved through like asking me to make a list. And it was this awful day. And they decided they had to help me find something I loved about myself. So the first thing they did was put me in therapy, but they didn't tell me I was going to therapy. The dean came up to me that night and she was like, "Hey, tomorrow we're going to Wendy's." And I spent the whole night thinking I was getting spicy chicken nuggets. Turns out my therapist's name was Wendy.
Hilarious.
Wasn't so clear. And then they decided to help me find something I loved about myself. So they put me on this journey and they signed me up for all different like classes and workshops and things. And I tried everything and it was comedy and improv. I like immediately loved. I was writing jokes on day one. I was getting laughs and it was the place where I felt like Tourette's added to me and didn't take away. And that was the turning point.
That's really cool. Yeah, we talked about like writing lists about things that we hate about ourselves, but like it is interesting when you like sit down to write about stuff that you love, like even giving yourself that permission to say that there are things that you love. Like there could be things that you liked, but then you were like, I don't even know if I'm allowed to like my Tourette's.
Yeah. And I think anyone who's gone through something that's different, it's like this journey to like, it was like, I didn't love Tourette's at first. I loved pieces of myself. And slowly over time, I was like, oh, but like, if I love my sense of humor and if I love the way my brain works and if I love this, then maybe I also love Tourette's. And like, it was a slow journey and progression, which I think we all go through in one way or another.
I think I kind of feel that way about depression. Like it really is hard. But I think about like you really wouldn't be the same person if you didn't have that in you.
Do you think it adds to your comedy as well?
It's got to, right?
Yeah, I think so too. But
otherwise you just a sad guy.
Do you feel like depression helps you when you like look at the world though differently? Like helps your brain kind of see things maybe other people aren't seeing?
I don't understand people who aren't depressed. Like I think that's really interesting and blissful for them. So yes, like I'm like, what? Like how do you not think about certain things? So in a way it's like a little bit of a superpower because it like lets you into other stuff that you wouldn't have thought about.
Welcome to one of my corporate keynotes.
Yay.
Literally, that's what I talk about. How to like leverage the hardest things about you and turn them into your superpower.
You guys, go. Are they online now? They
my
must
full keynotes, no, because I want to keep working. So tidbits are like on my website and Insta, but not the full thing.
Okay.
I want people to hire me, so I don't post the full show.
Right.
I'm careful.
Maybe make a Patreon or something.
Oh.
Little paywall for your ass. Yeah.
That's a good idea. I do things on YouTube for free though. Like I'll do Ask Me Anything series and like answer questions and have fun on YouTube.
That's good.
And I love when I talk at like a high school and the kids line up to share with me what makes them different.
Oh,
it's the favorite thing on the planet. It takes a lot of mental focus because I want to validate every single kid that shares with me. Yeah. And I always have a plan in place with the school of like, if a kid discloses, what are we going to do? Because I don't have the capacity. I'm not, I can't do that for every kid. So I'll do my comedy and storytelling and then I'll hang out and the kids will line up and rarely are they sharing that they have Tourette's. It's always like, it's whatever they feel different because suddenly they see an adult who is funny and kind of has their shit together, who is talking about like loving their differences. And my messaging is not ever overcoming. I didn't overcome Tourette's. I like leaned into it and embraced it. And that's new to kids, that's an option. So they like line up to tell me, you know, that they've got ADD or their parents are getting divorced, or
do they start like one-upping each other? I'm just kidding.
Sometimes it feels like the adults need to prove to me that they've been through something as well, a lot.
Yeah.
But the kids know. They just want to share. They just want me to be like, yes, and are you learning to love it? And like, they just want to be able to tell someone.
What's your number one favorite thing about you today?
Oh, that's a good question. I think people with disabilities are innovators in a lot of ways. Like I innovate my whole life. Right now, if you put a microphone in my hands, my Tourette's is so bad in my hands, I could not hold a mic. So I did a thing where I put it in the crest of my arm. We're
Chris
innovators.
Crespo.
Yes.
How he holds a mic.
Yeah. So we're innovators. And I think when COVID hit, I like watched all of my tour come out from under me. I watched all of the contracts. Like I watched the whole, which we all did. We all lost everything. And then I was like, wait a second, you've been in training for this your whole life.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I figured it out. And so I think my favorite thing right now is that I'm an innovator, that I've like created.
I love that.
Created a life for me that I had no idea was an option.
Yeah.
I had no idea you could make a living talking about like inclusion, comedy, and mental health.
That's my mom always used to say necessity is the mother of invention. I think it's like Einstein or Edison or someone like that. And like, I'd be like, shut up. But it really,
sorry.
no, you could say,
I just want to hear what yours is. I want to flip it and go to you. I want to hear what your favorite thing is right now about yourself.
Relatable. I like that I'm relatable.
Super relatable.
I can make other people feel like not such fuck ups too.
Yeah.
But wait. Oh, necessity being the mother of invention.
Yes.
So my mom used to say that all the time, and I would just be like, shut up. That is like a really stupid saying, because basically she was just saying like, oh, like if things are hard, like you invent to like figure it out. But it's really, really true. And like when I was on that Explain thing on Netflix and they were talking about like gay sex versus heteronormative sex, like the reason why people are having more orgasms in same-sex couples is because they didn't have the porn giving them like the 1, 2, this is what you do. And so like if you don't have the same parts that you're taught in school, it's like, okay, well, let's invent stuff. What feels good? Figure things out when there are loopholes and there are things that other people can then use down the line. It's like, okay, like I unlocked it, but now you guys can all use this little microphone trick or whatever. Or yeah.
Everyone deserves pleasure. It's okay that sometimes people have to get creative to get there, right? Like everyone deserves pleasure. People with disabilities, people with every single person, if they want it, they deserve it. And I believe that so much of creating an inclusive world is going with the flow, is pivoting when you need to, is like thinking of where we are and where we want to be, things like that. And I think sometimes we do something for 1 or 2 or 3 people and it's great for everyone. So like we might learn something and like, let's let other people try it too. 'Cause there's other people who are still looking for.
Right. Like I think a lot of this work from home stuff has been tough for some people. So they've had to like invent new stuff. But then for other people, it's like the whole commute was tough for me. And now I can really just work, you know? And I think trying different things and showing people that not everything works for everyone. And like we can find these little things that work for other people. And just because they work differently doesn't mean they work less.
That's perfect and beautiful. And I agree.
Okay, thanks.
That was so succinct and lovely.
Was it? Because I thought I was just like vomiting bullshit.
No, that's how I feel every time I talk. But no, that was succinct and perfect.
Okay, cool.
I have imposter syndrome every day. Every day.
Dude.
It's real. It's real. And I think it's real.
It's so interesting to me that some of the most accomplished people have the worst imposter syndrome. Like, let's look at who you were recently honored alongside Ed Asner for your work with comedy and
Grandpa
inclusion.
Ed.
and spoke alongside Matthew Broderick and Michael Douglas. You opened for Pete Holmes, Lynn Coplitz, Joan Rivers, and in a weird turn of events, Fetty Wap.
That's my favorite one.
But how then do you still feel imposter syndrome?
Because every time it happens, I think to myself, did they mean to hire me? Am I the right? Like, were they thinking it was a different Pam? Am I good enough? Like, what happens if after I perform, everyone's like, oh my gosh, like, how does she have those credits? And like, I'll get a show and I'll be like, I should say no to it. Because what if they're like, she's not good enough for this? Or like, we all have bad days. And so instead of thinking it's a bad day, I think to myself, well, that was proof that you're not good enough.
Yeah.
Which is why I have to like take care of my mental health because my inner monologue is not nice.
She's so mean, mine.
She's a bitch.
Fucking bitch. They should hang out or something and like.
No, I don't want to give them more power.
Yeah, but if they were like just off being negative together, maybe they'd leave us alone.
Or like cancel each other out.
Yeah.
We'd put the mean girls in a room and lock it and be like, we'll come back when you're no longer.
I'd be really interested to see if you and I could survive saying the mean things to ourselves that we say to each other, or
other way around,
saying the things to each other that we say to ourselves.
I would never say that to you. That's so mean.
I would never say the things I say to myself to another person.
Also, even someone who hasn't done anything, I feel like I still wouldn't say, like, even if I like meeting a totally new comic who has not done a show yet, I still wouldn't be like, you're not good enough. Like, I would never say that.
Right.
And that to myself all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, if you were outside of yourself looking at yourself, you'd be like, no, that she's pretty valid. She like actually has Tourette's. She like has been speaking about it for a really long time. She's like actually helped a bunch of kids, you know, like you've got the verified stuff under your belt. So it's nice to know that even with all those credits, you feel like you're not meant to be there. Yeah.
No, I had lunch with a comic the day before yesterday. And sorry, that's Tourette's. Let me take my microphone off. Okay.
You're so much better with sound than most of our people, I will say.
Good. I think I'm aware because I make noises a lot. Sorry if that was really loud on the mic. I moved it.
Not.
But I was having lunch with a comic and I was like, even with these big shows, I feel like, did they mean to hire me? Like I have full anxiety and imposter syndrome. And she was like, when I feel like that, I look for a sign. And like, I like that. And then I got a sign that day that I was like, maybe doing the right thing.
What was it?
We were sitting outside eating. This has never happened. And all of a sudden a woman goes, Pamela? And I turn around. I was thinking I know her. And she goes, oh, no, I don't know you. I just follow you on Instagram and your YouTube. And I just read your Peloton article.
Oh my God.
And she was like, I just am a fan. And I was like, I turned beet red. And I was like, oh my God, hi. Like that's not happened. I've had kids.
That's really nice.
I've had kids be like, are you the comic who barks from the Dr. Mike channel? Like I've had that happen, but not, someone who knows me for my work.
Yeah.
And it was great. And she walked away and the table next to me goes, who are you?
That's so cool.
I was like, nobody, don't worry.
You're like, don't look at me.
But it was funny because in that moment, she literally just finished saying, like, when you feel like that, look for a sign.
Look for a sign.
A lot. And so I think that's going to be my new motto of like, look for a sign. And it's okay I'm trying to remind myself it's okay to have bad shows. It's okay to have rough nights. It's okay if 10 people from that show in Milwaukee are like, yeah, she's not funny. Like, that's okay.
Yeah. It's okay if I do a How Come Live and I'm not that funny and I say, am I disappointing you guys? And you say yes. and then we all go home disappointed. But hopefully the next show will be better.
Also, maybe you didn't kill it with funny, but maybe you gave 3 people in that audience something that they really needed to hear and you changed their lives.
Yeah. You never know.
Maybe the goal isn't always to be super funny. Maybe sometimes the goal is to make someone feel better about who they are.
That is an important thing about valuing multiple things about yourself. Like, instead of like, I always give this example that my family used to call me Pretty Remy. And I hated that because if I wasn't pretty, who was I that day? And then it's like, well, give yourself license to be funny Remy, to be smart Pamela, to be outspoken Remy, like have other things that like if one of your characteristics isn't working out that day, have like another thing that you could maybe rest on, or be comfortable knowing that you have that in your pocket too.
I love that. Yeah, that makes sense.
What were you doing to combat imposter syndrome before she said, look for a sign?
I just was feeling it heavily and deeply a lot. Yeah. Every time a gig comes in, I think to myself, can you do this? Are you good enough? And sometimes it gets the best of me. I once booked a show in New York, or they invited me on, and I knew who was on. I knew where the location was, and I didn't feel ready. I was like, these are people I really respect. And sometimes I think it's okay as a comic to say, you know what, thank you so much. Can I work a little bit harder and a little bit longer and then circle back so I don't blow my chance? I think that's okay. It's like finding the balance. There's a balance between constantly feeling not ready, not good enough, and sometimes being like, oh yeah, that's actually a really cool, huge opportunity, and I want to nail it.
Yeah. And also sometimes you'll look around and you'll see, like, I'll never forget, I was talking to this other podcaster one day and I was like, I just have such bad imposter syndrome. And she goes, well, if you have imposter syndrome, I should have imposter syndrome. And in my head, I'm like, you should. Like, you literally have done less than me. But there are people that they're just better at leaning in and taking the power and being like, yeah, I do deserve this. And like, sometimes I do think that those people deserve it less because they don't think about it as much. And that's kind of what I've been doing when I have imposter syndrome, is being like, this shows me that I'm still human and that I'm still connected and that I'm not like delusional.
Yeah. And goal-oriented and willing to work your ass off.
Yeah. But I started writing this journal on my BetterHelp app. And yesterday mine was feeling weird. Do I suck or am I iconic? And why can't I decide?
That's probably healthy, because if your journal said I'm iconic, I'd be like, yeah, some days, but like some days we all suck. Like there's got to be a healthy balance. Yeah. I would say more than mostly yes, but you are iconic. Let's be honest. You're killing it.
You're iconic.
No.
You are. You got recognized in public.
The one time. The one time. Cool. The one time. And it totally, I was on cloud 9 for like 24 hours.
All I want to do is be recognized with my mask on. I feel like that would be like a huge coup.
Yeah. Also, don't forget, I am 4'6" and I have Tourette's, so I'm pretty recognizable. Like, yeah, it was great, but I probably hit that milestone a little bit earlier because I bark, I wink, and I'm 4'6". So just keep that in mind.
Can I ask about the barking? Does it happen with any emotion? Have you ever done it in bed?
No, in bed if I'm alone, I've done it.
Okay.
It's usually when I bark, it's at night. Although when people, once I had a neurologist who goes, does it hurt? And I was like, what do you mean, does it hurt? And he's like, when you bark, does it hurt? And I was like, well, I don't know what you're asking. What do you mean, does it hurt? And he's like, does it hurt when you bark? And I was like, well, only if I'm really excited because it's the mailman. He did not think it was as funny as I did. Yeah, I was like, no, it feels great.
You're like, yeah, and then I jump a little bit
if
too.
You're listening to this, or Remy tonight, bark, just like let out a yelp, and you're going to be like, oh shit, that actually kind of feels great. It's a release.
Yeah.
It feels good.
Yeah, honestly, maybe it's your body just being like, release, you're stressed.
Yeah. Although a lot of my friends have never heard the bark, although I almost just barked because Tourette's mimics, but one of my best friends had never heard me bark, and we were stuck in traffic for hours, and I was stressed and overwhelmed. So I barked, and she goes, oh, I did not expect you to be a small dog.
Oh, that's so cute.
That's my favorite quote.
You're yappy.
I'm like a little
Yorkie ready to defend the house.
And
you're a little crusty face Maltese. You're a little Upper East Side Jewish dog.
That would make sense, though, that I'm a small dog with a big comp.
Yes.
Like I think I'm a Newf, but I'm a Maltese.
Oh, cute.
Doesn't that make everything make more sense?
It does. Wait, do you know what? I'm like a huge Frasier fan. Do you watch Frasier?
I have.
You know Bulldog?
Yes.
How he always goes, arr, arr, arr. I'm like, maybe Bulldog has Tourette's.
Yes. Maybe.
Is barking unique to you, though? Because I've never even heard that as like
so many people with Tourette's make noises like a bark or a yelp. For years, I hissed.
Ooh, I love hissing.
And like people will turn on and be like, what? And I'll be like, oh my God, if I was hissing at you to get your attention, I'm awful. Like, no, I have Tourette's. On airplanes, though, I would have fun with it. Because when I get really stressed, Tourette's gets worse. So on airplanes, I would do a lot of hissing, and people are like staring and pointing and trying to figure out what's going on.
Sick of these motherfucking snakes.
That's what I'll be like. You've heard that, right? I'll be like, calm down, I have Tourette's. There are no motherfucking snakes in this motherfucking plane.
Oh, no, I haven't heard that.
And I'll always be like, that's my, like when I do that on stage, I'll be like, that's my topical joke. That joke is so old, it should not get a laugh.
Yeah. No, but what's interesting is like, we've hung out so many times and I've never heard a bark.
You will at some point.
I'm sure I will, but it's like, it's not one of the things I think of. Like, I don't even think of Tourette's when I think of you. I just think of like, I don't even think really of short when I think of you.
Because I'm loud.
I think of like, yeah, you and like fun.
Good.
And I think about that time that we were at, do you remember this? There was a night that we were with like a lot of other comics, a lot of boy comics, and Sarah Hartshorn and you and me. And I wanted to take my sweater off, but I knew that my boobs looked really big that day. And I was like, guys, I'm about to take my sweater off, but I don't want you to sexualize me. Do you remember this?
I remember that night. That was such a fun night. I don't remember this moment, though.
I was like, I don't want you guys to sexualize me. And you and Sarah were like, yeah, of course not. We're not going to do that to you. And then there was a male comic sitting with us and goes, is that what consent looks like?
That night, we were all each other's hype women. Like, we spent the whole night hyping each other up. We all left that night feeling great.
And Sarah was giving everybody palm readings, and everybody got like the best palm reading except me, who got Ben is gonna die. And I was like, I know.
What?
Yeah. Sarah and another psychic have told me that Ben dies really early in life. So
don't tell him that. That's awful.
He knows. Oh, he knows.
That's awful. Didn't he have like a firework injury? Not that long. Don't let him play with fire. Don't let him drive.
I know.
I would lock him. I would lock him in a padded room or like a bubble.
This year has been so great because I'm like, he's literally locked at home.
For my anxiety, keeping my loved ones alive, this year has been awesome because I just, didn't let anyone do anything and I knew they were okay.
Yeah. The thing with this Ben dying thing is I just try to really enjoy the time I have with him.
Oh my God, you've given me so much anxiety through you. I feel
it's fine. He's cool with it. No.
Oh my God.
The psychic also says I like find someone else. So
for you, this all works out.
For me, it's fine.
It's fine. Oh my God.
No, it is very sad. But I did think that consent
I love
comment was so funny. It's like,
I'm trying. Tell me offline later who said
I will.
Because
it was
okay.
Yeah, and they were like, "Wait, what?" But Pamela, you're the best. I'm not going to ask you anything about your comes because you're a professional.
Sorry.
And no, it's okay. Keep it as long as I know that you're feeling good.
I've been having a good time recently.
Then that makes me feel good. I love that. And I think the work that you're doing is so important for so many different types of people, whether it's a neurological disability or a physical one or whatever, or like a mental disability. Like you're just telling everybody, like, be yourself, lean into yourself, love yourself, and let the things that you think are issues, like, be your strengths.
Yeah, own it.
Own it, baby.
Own it.
Lisa Rinna, own it. Own it, baby.
Own it. Remy, I love you. I think you're the greatest. I think this podcast is the greatest. And you made my day inviting me to be on it. So thank you for having me.
You made my day by being like, wait, did you fill the spot? And I was like, nope, get in here. Where can everybody find you and all the work you're doing online?
Follow me on Instagram at Pamela Comedy and my website, PamelaComedy.com. But Instagram is and my website.
She's one of the only people that has comedy in her handle that's actually funny.
If sometimes, every now and again. It just, my last name is too hard to spell.
It is. But yeah, and maybe you guys can attend some of her live stuff eventually when the world is back. Or maybe she'll put it on Patreon for you someday.
Yes.
Who knows? but they can reach out to you, right?
Oh,
if they
absolutely.
have personal questions,
Absolutely.
good. She's here for you. And if they have questions that you want asked on the podcast, or if you guys have questions that you want me to ask Pamela so you don't have to ask her, would you be willing to come back for a little Patreon?
100%. Anytime.
Amazing. So submit your questions if you have anything for Pamela or for me or whatever, and we'll get her back and we'll talk more. I do have to ask you this one question that we ask everybody after a sexual experience, and anytime I'm with you, it is sexy. Pamela, did you finish?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for allowing me to come, for having me, and for being
course.
the best.
You're the best. I love you. And you guys have a great day. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
It's not you, it's me. I try so hard to finish honestly. They say you'll know when you go all the way from A right down to O. Oh no, I think that I've still got a ways to go. Oh, I'm sick of this and I have got to know. How come I can't achieve? How come I can't achieve? I'm rolling up my sleeves. Oh baby, I believe these guests can help, 'cause I can't do it by myself. I wanna jizz